It's odd, it is perplexing that I have to beg my community, my government, for a home that has been ours for 80 plus years.
Tonight, a family is worrying their generational home will be uprooted and that they'll have no say in it. Good evening, I'm Becca Habiger in for Alex Bell. This is To the Point. Tonight's main point, the I Street Bridge. The project will improve that connection between Sacramento and West Sacramento, but right now it has a family in distress. They say plans to replace the 110-year-old bridge, including tearing down their home. Van Tu and producer Ayanna Williams share the family's story and what city officials have in mind.
Framed by tall sequoia trees,
I still am in awe with it when I come outside and hear everything here.
213 3rd Street is more than a house, it's a home.
It's full of a lot of love and history.
A home that holds 80 years of untold West Sacramento history.
My great-grandfather was a very influential man in this corner of town. When a lot of Mexican immigrants were coming to this country, he was the guy that people came to get help. My grandparents, Molly and Richard Duran, they're very big people in this neighborhood and are founding members of Holy Cross Church.
The Sanchez siblings say their family have planted deep roots here for generations deep.
My grandparents planted the big orange and grapefruit trees that are there, the big sequoia trees.
But the current I Street Bridge replacement designs may raise everything on the property.
Historical families will be erased.
The City of Sacramento project to replace the 110-year-old bridge began more than a decade ago, with cooperation and financial support from West Sacramento. The design was approved and widely publicized in 2020 after several community outreach projects, according to the West Sacramento city manager. But Sanchez says he only learned of the plans this year when a neighbor showed him this map showing a new proposed access point running right through their property.
It says it's to be removed. That's terrifying. There was never an outreach meeting titled, this is your home's going to be removed.
Sanchez says his late elderly parents were living in the home during the critical planning phases and likely fell through the cracks. Now he's fighting to save their legacy.
We're being asked to sacrifice all this beauty for an alley.
Sanchez points out there's another access point that already exists one street over on B and 2nd Streets. After bringing their concerns to public meetings, it appears their family has a fighting chance. West Sacramento officials say in a closed session on Wednesday, the City Council directed staff to analyze and develop alternative designs to the 2nd Street access. Those designs will be presented to the community during a November 14th meeting.
Van joins me now. How hopeful is it that this news that West Sacramento is looking at alternatives? I mean, we know in eminent domain cases, a jury would have to determine the price the government must pay to acquire that private property.
Yeah, so Becca, West Sacramento officials say the city has not authorized any offer to purchase this home. So they say discussions of eminent domain is premature. Officials say the engineering and designing phase is 65% complete and the final decisions concerning individual properties have not been made. So Becca, there is a window here for potential changes, but neither city, West Sacramento or Sacramento, has made guarantees to design around this home. And to be clear, the Sanchez family says they aren't against the project, the I-Bridge replacement project, because they know that it does need to be replaced, but they don't want it to come at their expense.
And they put that so emotionally and so compellingly. West Sacramento officials told ABC 10 there will be a community discussion about river access on November 14th at West Sacramento City Hall Galleria. Van, what will happen after that meeting?
So 2 days later, it will go back to the city council where they will determine what will happen next. They'll give direction to the staff. So in the meantime, though, there will be even more community outreach meetings so that people who need to know about this and how that might impact them can get the information they need.
Yeah, that information is so key in this time of uncertainty for these neighbors. Right. Thank you, Van. ABC 10 producer Ayanna Williams came across this story listening to city council meetings. The Sanchez family has been outspoken, trying to get officials to listen to their concerns. And if you're not familiar with the I Street Bridge replacement project, you see the designs here. Beautiful, right? The lower deck of the bridge is still going to be used as a railroad crossing, but the upper deck is getting redesigned so people can walk and bike on the bridge. Construction is planned to begin in 2024 and wrap up in 2027. Now, the area under the 99 overpass on Broadway is looking different today. This area of Sacramento was the location of a homeless encampment, but today the rest of that camp was cleared out. We saw that beginnings of that earlier this week. We reached out to Sacramento police to find out if this had to do with recently enacted city ordinances. They told us that officers responded to the area because of multiple complaints from the community and that the clearing is not in response to the city ordinances related to encampments on sidewalks or near schools. They say they are working with people to voluntarily clear the area of waste and debris. The city continues to tell ABC 10 they're still in the outreach and education phase of the sidewalk ordinances, and through those ordinances, they are not yet removing camps. A 10-week strike at Kaiser is now over, what mental health care providers and the health care company were able to agree to. For people waiting for mental health care through Kaiser Permanente, hopefully they will see more appointment availability. That's after hundreds of mental health care providers ended a 10-week strike, agreeing today to a contract they say allows them to better serve their patients. We've been covering this since the beginning. Back in mid-August, some 2,000 mental health care workers throughout Kaiser Permanente's Northern California region went on strike. The providers, represented by the National Union of Healthcare Workers, wanted Kaiser to address staffing shortages and improve patient access to care after they saw a surge in demand during the pandemic. The new contract gives therapists nearly 2 more hours per week for something called indirect patient care. That's the time outside of seeing patients therapists use for things like personalizing treatment plans and charting appointments. Kaiser has also committed to hiring more therapists, expanding the programs to get patients seen sooner, forming a plan to expand crisis services, and giving more time for initial assessments of children. Now, as part of the agreement, Kaiser will also create 5 new committees dedicated to improving Kaiser's mental health care system. Those committees will also help Kaiser comply with a new law that says patients must have access to a follow-up appointment within 10 business days. And if there is a stalemate, the agreement says Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg will step in as mediator, as he did to bring negotiations to a close this week. After what they're calling the longest strike by mental health care workers in U.S. history, the National Union of Healthcare Workers says the contract makes major gains for patients and the people serving them. In a statement from Kaiser, the company says, in part, they are very pleased with the outcome and we appreciate our therapists' confidence in this agreement, which addresses the concerns they expressed while upholding Kaiser Permanente's commitment that any agreement must protect and enhance access to mental health for our members. After the break, we're closing out our week-long series on cryptocurrency. We've gone over many potential benefits of crypto. Tonight, we talk about the dangers. Cryptocurrency and crime. It's tonight's topic in a week-long series about cryptocurrency. We've asked experts, how does it work? How do you even invest in it? How could it be harming the environment or contributing to renewable energy? And then how can it help with equity? But tonight, we're talking about crime. And like many neutral tools, it can be used for good and it can be used for harmful ways. I went to the FBI field office in Roseville to speak directly with special agents about how criminals use cryptocurrency and how we can protect ourselves from becoming victims.
So start with the basics. How and why is cryptocurrency used in crimes?
Cryptocurrency, we're seeing more and more often used in crimes nowadays as it's becoming more and more common. It's used in the sense of it's just another form of currency. People are using it to pay ransoms, to use in investment schemes and fraud, and it's being used a lot of the time because it's quick, it's less regulated, it's easier for people to send that anonymously. So as the technology evolves, we will evolve in our investigations along with it. You know, you can't just use crypto and get away with it.
Yeah.
This is really the new way forward when it comes to technology and future applications. And unfortunately, it's being misused by some people to commit crimes. Here in the US, there's nothing illegal about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency itself. It's inherently just technology. It's in the way people misuse it. Now in the US, it's not recognized as fiat or legal tender. But if someone were to invest in it, even legitimately, it can still be taxable if they profit from it. Some countries, however, outlaw it altogether. And other countries even recognize it as legal property. So it really varies quite a bit around the world because Cryptocurrencies haven't been around for much more than a decade.
What are the components of a crime involving cryptocurrency?
We work on a cyber squad, so both of us have actually seen the use of cryptocurrency in what's called ransomware, when people essentially hijack your data and encrypt it so that you can't use it, whether it's on a server or whether it's on your personal computer. And then a note is sent and an offer is provided so that the criminal will decrypt the files for you, allegedly, provided that you send funds to their cryptocurrency address.
Another type of crime that I've seen has been investment fraud schemes. People are excited about cryptocurrency. They're hearing that people are making a lot of money on it. They're hearing that it's a really good place to invest and they want to get in on it. But it's confusing. People don't know where to go and how to do it, and they may get caught up in something that is not legitimate. Someone messages them on Facebook, on WhatsApp, saying, hey, I heard you want to invest, here's how you do it. And they'll get them to basically send the money to someone else. You'll just send the funds, it'll go overseas, and you'll never see that money back again.
Are there any specific steps or advice that you have for people to ward off such attacks?
For those investing in cryptocurrency, one of the biggest things we can say is to use a reputable exchanger. Don't just go online and find one that has the cheapest fees, because it may not be a legitimate service. So really do your research. Anyone who says guaranteed returns, you're going to make money, that is almost definitely a scam, because cryptocurrency is such a volatile market that anyone who guarantees that is running a scam, so you want to stay away from anything like that.
The more common it becomes, the more people that are going to take advantage of that misplaced excitement. We've even seen instances of where someone that's not even interested in crypto but is victimized and manipulated, whether it was one of the romance fraud schemes that we've seen. The criminals will actually ask them to open up an exchange account and move the funds in that manner because they're more anonymous and a little less regulated. There's a whole other segment of the population that is going to be taken advantage of, just using it as a vehicle to move those illicit funds. We've already seen internal stats that are showing not just the number of victims, but the amounts of money that are being stolen in this way are going up. It's in the billions.
You know, what really stuck out to me after talking with them was how, whether you're someone who's interested in cryptocurrency or you have no interest at all, fraudsters can get at all of us. And I don't say that to scare you. I just say that to maybe, as we head into the weekend, nudge you to maybe change a few passwords. That's the advice from the FBI. Change passwords, turn on two-factor authentication where you get that text when you try to log in. I know it takes a few extra steps, but they say it really does make a difference in protecting you. And look, we all like to think we're immune to the deception of fraudsters, right? But the truth is lots of people fall prey to it every day. Criminals are just becoming more savvy at capturing our attention and earning our trust or fooling us. So if you or someone you know have been victimized, the FBI does ask you to come forward and report it. That helps them solve these crimes. We have a link to where you can do that on abc10.com/tothepoint. It's time for another trip on the back roads. This week, John Bartel takes us to an active military base in the Mojave Desert to see painted rocks, explosions, and NASA telescopes.
Somewhere between Death Valley, the Mojave National Preserve, and the middle of nowhere, there is a pile of rocks. Not just any rocks. These are painted rocks.
About how many rocks have been painted, do you suppose, here?
I have no count. Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Some of the rocks are big and some of the rocks are small, but each one of these rocks were strategically placed here, in secret.
They are. And I'd love to know how they moved them. I don't know. I've never seen anybody move one of them.
This is Ken Driley, and though he's never seen anyone place the rocks here, he does know the reason they were painted.
When a unit comes out here to train, after their training, they can ask permission to paint a rock with their distinctive unit insignia, but they have to move the rock here first.
The units that Ken is talking about are newly trained soldiers at Fort Irwin National Training Center.
So the rumor is the reason that they have them move the rock is Fort Irwin's full of rocks. And if we can move enough rocks out of the Irwin will cease to exist and we can all go home.
The newly trained soldiers have been painting rocks since the 1960s, and they were placed outside Fort Irwin's entrance gate for two reasons. One, so civilians could see them, and two, because Fort Irwin is one of the most intense training facilities in the world.
A week in Fort Irwin was worse than your entire deployment to Iraq. We gave you everything you were going to hit in a week.
Ken is the curator of the General Robert W. Cone Heritage Center, which tells the long history of Fort Irwin.
The Dragoons built this as a defensive position.
Military operations in the area date back to the 1800s, before Irwin became an actual training center in the 1940s when they were training soldiers to shoot down enemy aircrafts.
These are the smallest anti-aircraft weapons that would have been fired out here. So it goes from these all the way up to the M2 that we have out front.
Because of their remoteness, Fort Irwin was able to expand their training facility, and they created what's known as the Box. The Box is short for the Sandbox, and it's an Army battle tactical zone that prepares troops for military deployment.
The training area here is roughly the size of the state of Rhode Island.
The Box is made to look and feel realistic. The Army's created several battle scenarios, which include actors and ornate set pieces.
We contracted out with people in Hollywood to come up and do set dressing on our land sea containers and make them look like the Middle East.
Speaking of Hollywood, Fort Irwin has been the backdrop for numerous Hollywood films.
The very opening scenes of G.I. Joe, where the tank gets eaten by the nanoprobes, that's on our Bicycle Lake.
Several miles from the shooting, the explosions, and the Hollywood sets is NASA's Goldstone Deep Space Communication Complex. These massive radio telescopes play a crucial part in space exploration.
In the case of radio telescopes, size does matter. The bigger, the better. These things can communicate all the way up to the space station and 14 billion miles away, all the way to the Voyager spacecraft.
For being in the middle of nowhere, a few hundred service members and their families live in Fort Irwin, and for many, it's an unforgettable experience.
I had a guy that was here in the 50s come back, and he cried when he left. He actually broke down.
From Fort Irwin, I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the back roads.
So much history there, huh? John has covered a lot of ground on his quest to explore all of California's back roads. You can check them all out on abc10.com/backroads or just text backroads to 916-321-3310. We'll send a map straight to your phone to help you plan your next road trip. And hey, if you're planning on hitting the main roads this weekend, set aside some extra time. The Ironman Triathlon is back and bringing thousands of athletes to Sacramento. You may recall last year's race was canceled because of torrential rain. The race may dodge the rain expected this weekend, but there's no dodging those road closures and traffic heading our way. Jordan Tolbert's got a look at what to expect.
Well, let's talk about some race impacts for the Ironman that's happening this weekend in Sacramento. So we're already seeing some closures between L and N Street, between 9th and 10th. We're going to see those closures there. And these are actually going to last until Tuesday, October 25th. So those are some things to keep in mind as you head out this weekend. Another place where we're going to see some really big traffic impacts, West Sacramento, south of Business 80, Tower Bridge area, Discovery Park, and Capitol Mall. And we'll have local road closures for race day. Those are up on our website, abc10.com.
Nostalgia sells, right? And right now it's on the menu at McDonald's. If you were a kid or you had a kid in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, then this will look familiar. McDonald's Halloween pails or Boo Buckets are back. These iconic Happy Meal buckets debuted in 1986 and have made the rounds every Halloween night as kids got to reuse them to go trick-or-treating. McDonald's has offered many versions of the Halloween pails over the years. The last time was in 2016. After a hiatus, they're back while supplies last. All you need to do is order a Happy Meal. It brought our team down memory lane. We just figured we'd share the news with you. Thanks for spending your Friday evening with us. We want to hear what's going on in your world. What do you have to look forward to this weekend? You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, or you can email the team to thepoint@abc10.com. Have a great weekend, and Jeopardy is next.
Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.